7:07 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on in to your Wednesday. It is July 9th of 2025. It is Wednesday, and it's time for our weekly visit with one Brian Wilson. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Dan. How was your holiday? Did you have a good time?
We did. We actually went and waded into the downtown area, took a trip down Broadway.
Yeah. What an amazing fireworks display that was. I saw it on TV.
Yeah. Did you watch the drone? The drone presentation?
It's amazing. Yeah. Having a little, I mean, I have a couple of drones that I've owned over the years that I'd sort of a hobby for me, photography. But, I mean, it's amazing what they can do with those drones now. Just astonishing.
Now,
we stayed here for the Watertown Squirt Gun Parade. And by the way, Chris Hand and his lovely family were there. Mm-hmm. They came over to get squirted and then to hang out at the pool afterwards. Let me tell you, Chris Hand has the nicest kids I've ever met in my life.
They're great.
They're just the sweetest, most adorable kids. It's so rare to see someone of that age walk up to an adult, look you straight in the eye, and shake your hand and say, "Thank you so much for having us over." You know, it was just
speaks volumes about the parents, right?
It really does. And he's got those kids dialed in. They're just delightful. We enjoyed having them over.
All right, real quick, do you think, yes or no, Brian, do you think drones will eventually replace fireworks on the 4th of July?
Let me tell you what's going to happen with drones, the next big thing. And nobody's really talking about this. And I think it's in Mount Juliet and maybe other jurisdictions around here. The police department will have a drone system that is on the roof of the police building. Mm-hmm. And when they need to look at something, and there's a big call that goes out, they launch that drone much like a police helicopter to get you eyes over the scene and to see what's going on. And so they will now be launching drones in a law enforcement capacity, much in the way the Metro Nashville Police Department spends, millions of dollars to run their helicopters. This will be the thing for law enforcement going forward. Everybody wants a drone on the roof of their building to launch and support and give air support to their troops on the ground.
Well, what I love, and then we'll get to some other content, but what I love is, as a guy who lives in Mount Juliet, is they do embrace technology to take out the bad guys, whether it's license plate readers, now drones. I love it because, all these bad guys from Nashville, I don't know why they do this. It's like they don't read, which they probably
like they don't know not to go to Wilson County.
Yeah, man, don't go to Mount Juliet. We got drones, we got license plate readers, so come on. All right, real quick.
I can't tell you the number of arrests that get made, and you wonder why in the world won't Nashville go ahead and do that, because it is really something that assists police officers. I know for some people it's controversial, not for me, because I've done my study on how those systems work. And I think there are safeguards in place, and I think that the benefit of getting really bad people off the streets is worth the investment.
Well, and I think just my 2 cents. I think Nashville is like a lot of Democrats. They're just pro-criminal and anti-cop. Yeah. Real quick headline: Supreme Court clears the way for Trump and his plans to downsize the federal workforce. Is it just me, or is Donald Trump getting victory after victory at the Supreme Court level?
The winning just continues, and this is a big one because, every time he tried to do something that would reduce the size of government, somebody would jump up and file a lawsuit, and it got to be ridiculous what these lower court judges were doing. Now the Supreme Court says we're not really ruling on the merits of the case, but just that you can't shut down an effort nationwide if you're a local district judge. You just can't do that. And everybody agreed on that except Ketanji Brown Jackson.
So is she becoming the joke of the Supreme Court? Because there's been a lot of talk about how Amy Coney Barrett and Ketanji Brown Jackson, they got into it in one of the earlier rulings.
Yep, right.
And now she is the only dissenting vote. And I mean, you watch this stuff much closer than I do, but does that often happen where there's only one dissenting vote?
It does happen. I mean, it depends. It depends on what's going on out there and how they want to handle it. But I mean, yes, it does happen. And she is way out there on the left side. Nobody wanted to touch this besides her. Apparently, the decision has been made by the other remaining members of the High Court, 8 of them, that indeed this lower court stuff had gotten out of control. And they're not really ruling on the issue, just saying that you cannot stop, if you're a district judge, you can't stop nationwide what the president is doing. You just don't have the authority to do that. And that is a very important thing to get straightened out. Well, I'm glad that there's some consistency there.
Yeah, and their point, and the whole point is they're supposed to rule on the law and the precedent and all that, and they're not to put their feelings into it, which is what Ketanji Brown Jackson apparently did. This is what she wrote, just real quick. She accused her colleagues of a, quote, demonstrated enthusiasm for greenlighting this president's legally dubious actions in an emergency posture. Jackson warned of enormous real-world consequences. This executive action promises mass employee terminations, widespread cancellation of federal programs and services, and the dismantling of much of the federal government as Congress has created it. Well, all that be that as it may, this is about the law and the precedent in the Constitution.
Absolutely, it is, and again, you cannot have lower court judges, mucking this stuff up. You just can't, and I'm so glad to see them do this. I really am. By the way, speaking of Supreme Court, now that their term is over, I would not be surprised if there were a vacancy on the High Court. The one that comes to mind is Clarence Thomas. He's way up there.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna do it, if you're a conservative on the High Court, you definitely want to step down and have your replacement picked by a Republican president. And so maybe he's got another year or two in him. Maybe he's just, I've gotten the impression he's ready to go at some time, but he was waiting for the right moment. So again, this is the time of year where if you're going to have an announcement like that, it will happen about now.
Yeah, and I would agree. And you want to probably do it before the midterm elections, I would think, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So, all right. 7:15. Brian, I'm going to get your opinion on Epstein coming up next. It is 7:15. Time to check the roads on WTN. Your weather for today, a high of 90, scattered thunderstorms as well. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So, Brian, I'm going to be honest. I was going to put the whole Epstein thing away. And then the president said this during a cabinet meeting yesterday.
Yeah, sure.
Could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
Well, the truth of the matter is, and the president knows this, yes, people are talking about Epstein, and people know my opinion on it. You go ahead, Brian, and tell me what you think.
Look, Jeffrey Epstein, here's the thing. You keep hearing everybody who looks into it, talking about people like Bongino and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi have all looked into it, and they're all coming back. Now, these are people that, I know one of them personally. The other two I have some respect for. And they're saying there's no there. And I think this is what happens maybe sometimes. I'm just throwing this out. That when you get out over your skis, in other words, Pam Bondi got everybody's hopes up when she says, yes, it's on my desk now. Now, she was asked about the list, but she says she was talking about the entire file was there and that she was looking at the file and trying to determine what could be released. And the expectation was it would be released. And then it's not. Well, people are very skeptical about the whole Epstein thing to begin with, but maybe it's that when you started talking about a list, people just assumed, yeah, there's a list, but maybe there was never a list. Maybe it was just misspoken of, a client list. Where did that come from? Who originally said there was a client list? I can't get that piece of information locked down. So I don't know. I think always transparency is the better way to go. But maybe they just, everybody, they got with a little of enthusiasm. Yeah, we got this whole thing. You wouldn't believe the stuff that's in it. And we're saying, okay, we'll release it. And then they decide not to do it. It certainly disappoints a lot of people. I'm disappointed. I want to know. We're big enough to figure it out. Release it. let the chips fall where it may, is my opinion.
I think bottom line is, I'm not going to belabor the point, but you had Bongino, you had Kash Patel, you certainly had Pam Bondi. Even before they joined the Trump administration, they talked about this. They were talking big on all the talk shows, Epstein. And then when they finally get into a position of power, one of two things happen. Either they realize that, as you said, they got over their skis, or there's some sort of a cover-up going on. So, I mean, at some point, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But, for me, I think the whole thing just, it does stink to high heaven one way or another. And the base is really disappointed. And I think
there's no doubt about that. People are upset about this. And I think they're going to have to reconsider this whole matter. I think it will get reconsidered. I think that we will see more releases. Will they release everything? I don't know. But, I mean, this doesn't make sense, Dan. When you look at why in the world would they say, oh, we're going to release it, we're not going to release it.
Right.
Well, the question that comes to my mind is, well, they found something, and I want to know what it is. So, it is sort of a problem of their own making, since they talked about it so big, and now they have decided not to release it. It's always going to raise questions. And if you have an administration which is committed to transparency, which this one has been, then let the transparency continue here. We're all big enough to read those files and look at them.
All right, real quick. The FBI is now investigating James Comey and John Brennan. I am thrilled. I'm elated with this. However, I just wonder how much of this is going to be for show, and will we actually see John Brennan and James Comey behind bars?
Man, I'm telling you, if there ever was a dirty political trick, it was the one that was carried out by the intelligence community and the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Yep.
The Russian dossier was never real, and the FBI knew within relatively short order that there was no there. But they kept it alive and kept making it a noise and kept, suggesting that it was an open investigation, which hurt Trump in a big way. So I think I'm glad to see Brennan and Comey squirming. I hope we can get something out of it. But what they did was reprehensible. It truly was.
Well, I've always said that the first couple of years of Donald Trump's first administration is almost like they stole the election, in the sense that Trump, as you know, you were there talking about it, wrapped up in all of these investigations. And so the president couldn't really do the things that he wanted to do because there was always that cloud of the Mueller investigation. All right, last one. The flooding in Texas, the horrible flooding,
Dan,
and the coverage from the media.
It breaks my heart. I spent some time in Texas growing up, and of course, I was in West Texas, where they had, by the way, in my own hometown of Odessa, they had flooding. Not to the level we saw in Central Texas, but I mean, there were parts of the town in Odessa Midland that were flooded. Same has happened in San Angelo, and of course down in the Texas Hill Country. Tragic thing that is happening there, and what really hacks me off is the attempt almost immediately by the mainstream media to try to say, well, this is all because of budget cuts, which is nonsense. There were more people on duty than were supposed to be on duty at that weather station. This was at 4 o'clock in the morning. It rose 30 feet in an hour, and it's pitch black outside. We have systems in place to warn people about tornadoes, but we really don't have similar systems in place to warn people about flash flooding. And when it happens at 4 o'clock in the morning, it pitch dark, and it wasn't even a moon out. And the timing could not have been worse. The Weather Service did everything it was supposed to do. And any suggestion that this has something to do with Trump budget cuts is completely and absolutely out of line. And they know it, but they just can't help themselves. The Democrats keep raising anything that happens that's bad, they're going to lay at the foot of Donald Trump if they can. But this one is just absolute. Well, you know how I feel about these things. It's absolute.
Yes, you do. Bovine scatology, BS, whatever you want to say it. And Brian will leave it there. Great analysis as always.
Yep. Thank you. And thanks to the Wellness Institute of Nashville for letting us do this.
It's absolutely right. And thank you, Brian. We'll talk again soon. It is 7:23 on Nashville's Morning News. Yes, the Wellness Institute of Nashville does sponsor these segments, and they're always great. And we, again, enjoy visiting with Brian every single week. It is 7:23 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. The Super Text line is open at 615-737-9986. 615-737-WWTN. Got a lot more straight ahead. 7:37, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Breaking news, Joan?
Yes.
Apparently, Afton Bain has announced that she is running for the 7th.
Yes.
That's exciting. So you're telling me that WSMV and News 2 both have this as like breaking news?
Breaking news this morning.
Now, did you get my text?
I did.
So, and I don't know, but I had State Representative Jody Barrett and Lee Reeves both announce on this show yesterday and the day before. Was that breaking news on SMV and News Channel 2?
I don't think it was. Nope.
So only the lunatic fringe on the left, Afton Bain, announcing she is running for Mark Green's seat, and they consider that breaking news, but not Lee Reeves and Jody Barrett, Republicans.
That's right.
I want to make sure that everybody understands the distinction of what's happening.
Yes. Right. You got it.
Thank you, Joan. I can explain it one more time, but I think that would be a little...
Dan, do you just want your name in the article as well because they announced it on your show?
That would have been nice, actually, KGB. Yes, that would have been nice.
Why didn't Afton come to you, Dan? I wonder. I mean...
Oh, I think she knows better.
He just wants to be included.
You know what? When it comes to Afton Bain, listen, if she wants to come on, and you know, we can do a getting to know you, although I think we all know Afton Bain. And she's free to come on if she wants. I mean, we've asked these people before, you know, people on the left, and they just, you know, mysteriously they can't find our phone number.
I probably would use more Bane Batman jokes more than I would like to. I would have to hold myself from not using too many Bane jokes.
Well, here's the thing. Again, if she wants to come on, or there was another one on the left that has also announced, I forget who it was, but... Was that John?
I just think it's funny that we know everyone, and then there's one person on the left that has no news whatsoever about them. They're like, talk about what he'd be included.
No, it's somebody, I just can't remember who it was. Again, it's somebody on the left, and she announced that she was running too for either the 6th or the 7th. Don't know. I think, is it the one? Who did Matt Murphy kick out of the studio? It was her.
Wait, what?
Wow. I don't want to get into you. Yeah, Matt Murphy kicked somebody out of the studio, and was
this before me and Joan?
It was before you. I don't know about if it was. Were you there, Joan, when Murphy's show kicked out a state representative, or was she a Metro Council member?
I don't think so.
Oh gosh, the super text line is going to have to help me out here. Who is the one that Matt Murphy kicked out?
You're gonna have to tell me the story off air because I need to hear this.
Oh, it was epic. I mean,
need to hear this.
Was. I forget even what the whole thing was about. You know Murphy, right?
Oh, yeah, no. The fact that you kick someone out, that's another level, though. You got to tell me the story.
Yeah.
We'll do it off air, though. I need to hear it, though.
Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out who the woman was now that got kicked out. Somebody's got to know. I'm on my phone, and I'm on the super text line. I'm waiting for the delay to catch up.
Yeah, it does take a second.
Heidi Campbell.
That must have been way before us.
Murphy show kicked her out of the studio. I think she's announced that she's running too. So,
why did he kick her out though?
There was a disagreement over the school vouchers conversation.
Oh, okay,
if I remember right. Mm-hmm. And he brought her in and he tried to have a dialogue with her, and it didn't go well. And I don't remember the actual reason or the disagreement as to why the kick out happened, but. I think it had something to do with, I'm remembering back, it had something to do with the fact that she was against the scholarship program, but she sent her kids to a private school. I think that's what it was.
So it was like hypocritical thing?
Oh, yeah, it's pure hypocrisy.
And he kept pushing probably, and she kept pushing.
Yeah,
do you know what? Like, was it like a year ago or a couple years ago?
I don't know, man.
Were we streaming?
You're asking
because
me
I can
this.
find
I don't
it.
know. Yeah, it's on YouTube.
It has to be.
It's on YouTube.
This.
Yeah.
If someone can go back, God bless you, and try to find this.
No, all you got to do. I don't want to belabor the point. All you got to do is go to Google, and Google Matt Murphy, Heidi Campbell, and it's there. I guarantee you. Because Joan, he got thousands and thousands of people as she was kicked out of the studio.
That's funny.
And I remember when
Tennessee Star made a story about it.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of stories made about it.
So it was in February, which was like a month before I joined.
Yeah, and so when Matt, I'll never forget. And again, I don't want to belabor the point, but apparently I'm going to. I'll never forget when he said something like, "Well, you can leave then." And she's like, "Wait, what?" And she looks at Belle, who is in the studio, in the other studio, and yeah, bye. And it was just like this awkward silence.
Sally,
as she grabbed her coat and she left.
Sally says that it was Heidi Campbell, and Matt didn't kick her out. She said, "I'm not going to sit here and be called a liar." And Matt said, "Well, you can leave because I'm not going to stop calling you a liar."
Okay, yeah.
And then she...
Whatever. Yeah, very funny. I mean, it was...
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was funny, but I may be the only one. Because I love moments like that. It's a little awkward, but whatever. Anyway, moving right along.
Makes for lovely radio.
So, but she has announced as well. Is she announcing that she's running for the...
Heidi Campbell?
Yeah.
Or
What
Campbell.
a great troll job if Matt Murphy endorsed her, just as a troll.
That would be funny, actually.
Matt, if you're listening, endorse her publicly on your show today.
Oh, yeah, do more damage than good. I don't know. All right, moving right along.
I don't have her as...
Oh, maybe all that, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not Heidi Campbell. Maybe it's somebody else.
I don't think she's thrown her hat into anything.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Certainly not the Truth Tellers Club. All right, moving right along. Hey, can I real quickly?
Yeah.
We were talking about what do I want to do? Because I don't have a lot of time. Devin Nunes. We all know Devin Nunes, right? Former congressman, and he was the head of the House Intelligence Committee when you had James Comey, you had John Brennan, and they were conjuring up the dirty dossier, and Hillary Clinton paid for it. We've been talking about this all morning long. And so he was on Fox News yesterday, and I loved what he had to say about John Brennan and James Comey now being investigated, criminal charges perhaps at some point as they were, again, doing all that they were doing with the dirty dossier and making this whole thing up, leaking it to the media. And then, of course, we got the Mueller investigation. Devin Nunes had what I thought was some really good comments on that whole thing. He, again, was on Fox News with Maria Bartiromo as this news broke yesterday.
And I'm going to be fascinated to see what this new information is that they found buried somewhere within that Hoover building, because I do think that transparency is key. And, now that we have, Ed Martin, who was supposed to be the U.S. Attorney in Washington, D.C., now the president has appointed him to go after this. So I think both Cash and Dan were pretty clear. They're going to follow the facts. They're going to provide transparency. And then ultimately it's up to the Department of Justice to hold these dirty cops responsible for what they've drugged this country through for the last almost decade now.
I mean, that's absolutely right. James Comey and John Brennan, and as I have said often, they stole the first 2 years of Donald Trump's first administration.
They framed General Flynn, they framed the entire Trump administration, and then they appointed Mueller. So once Trump fired Comey, Mueller gets appointed, and then we lived through that Mueller witch hunt for years. And I think, me personally, I think if you're going to find criminality, it's going to be with Mueller and his witch hunters that were there for so many years. I think that's where you're going to find the corruption. So it wasn't just I said this many times, Maria, and I think it was lost on people. It wasn't just about all the corruption that they did to create and manufacture the Russia hoax. The Mueller investigation itself was a hoax and was illegal. When Mueller walked into that door, how many times did I say it? He said, "Where are the Russians?" "Oh, sir, there are none." Why didn't Mueller leave? Right. Why did all those people work for years? Why did they hide the information from Congress for so many years?
I mean, Devin Nunes, he is absolutely spot on. All right, so Joe and I got a lot to clean up. So apparently Heidi Campbell is not running for anything.
She's not.
No.
Go ahead.
Bo Mitchell is running for Mark Green's seat as well.
Yes.
I don't know where I got Heidi Campbell from. I have no idea where that got into my head that she was running for anything. But Afton Bain is, as we have now breathlessly reported in the local media, breathlessly reporting that Afton Bain, breaking news, is running for the 7th, even though it was not considered breaking news when all these other Republicans, whether it was on Murphy's show or my show, made their announcements.
Also, just for the record, if you're on YouTube or any of the streaming platforms, I posted the link to the Matt Murphy, Heidi Campbell little walkout there.
Okay.
So in case anyone wanted to find it, it's on any streaming platform. I posted the link to it.
All right.
After the show, watch it.
All right. It is 7:45. Time to check the roads on WTN. 7:47, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk. As far as your weather goes, a high today of 90, scattered thunderstorms as well. And hot and sticky is what we keep saying as far as the weather pattern that we are in. All right. Real quick, I want to play this audio bite from Pete Hegseth, of course. He is talking about China, and he's talking about foreign entities owning land here in America.
I want to know who owns the land around our bases and strategic bases, and getting an understanding of why foreign entities, foreign companies, foreign individuals might be buying up land around those bases. That's something I should be paying attention to on behalf of the American people, on behalf of my department, and on behalf of the president. It's common sense. And so food security, just like energy resilience, just like where we get our water, that's all national security, especially in a contingency. So we would be asleep at the wheel if we were not fully a party to an effort like this to ensure that our nation had the food supply it needs. But specifically, our troops have what they need on our bases so that in those moments you can rely on us here in the United States to provide that security. So no longer can foreign adversaries assume we're not watching and we're not paying attention and we're not doing something about it, because we are. So, Brooke, thank you very much.
So that is, again, Pete Hegseth. Well, it's China. It's always been China. It's always going to be China. And they have been allowed to buy up a whole bunch of farmland. And as you know, if you listen to WTN, we talk about this stuff all the time. They're buying farmland around our military bases. Do you know who was calling sounding the alarm on this for many years before this actually became more well-known? Was one Dustin Kittle, who has been on this show many times. And, well, I'll say several times. He's going to be on at 8 o'clock. He was, again, one of the original whistleblowers where he was saying, and by the way, this goes really deep. And so it is a fascinating tale of how China very insidiously has been able to buy farmland in America and specifically around our military bases. We'll talk to Dustin Kittle coming up at 7:50 on, I should say, 8:06 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is now 7:50. I've got Afton Bain on the brain. That's what it is, Joan.
How sad is that?
That's a bad thing to have on your brain, is some Afton Bain. All right, moving on. 7:55, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I don't know if these are new numbers, Joan, or not. CNN is reporting this as breaking news. They're saying in Texas, 111 dead now,
Yes.
111 dead, 170 plus missing.
Yep.
So the news goes from bad to worse.
That was the update provided by Greg Abbott yesterday.
Okay.
To the press, yeah.
So have you heard about Austin's fire chief?
No.
Guy by the name of Joel Baker.
Okay.
And his big priority now, with much excitement, he was Austin's first black fire chief. And his big thing, Joel Baker, was he wanted to hire more black and LGBTQ firefighters. Well, now Joel Baker is facing a vote of confidence. Ask me why. Because he is being blasted by the union for denying the pre-deployment of resources to Caryville, citing budget concerns.
What?
So, and Charlie Kirk points out, the only problem, the Austin Fire Department is fully reimbursed by the state of Texas for these deployments. Now, the Austin Firefighter Special Operations teams, they are specially trained for Hill Country Swift Water Rescue. They are some of the best, if not the best, swift water boat teams in the state of Texas. And he said, no, we don't have the budget for this. That's number one. And number two, as Charlie Kirk reports, that they're paid back. Austin is paid back by the state for these kind of deployments. So now the Austin Firefighters Association ripping this guy Joel Baker's decision. Why would Fire Chief Joel G. Baker do this, you may ask? It was a misguided attempt to save money. I say misguided because the fire department is fully reimbursed by the state to deploy. I explained the reimbursement process to Chief Baker last week, and he failed to understand this very simple concept. Austin, they say, and this is Charlie Kirk, Austin says that Austin hired a DEI fire chief who could have saved an untold number of lives, but he was unable to comprehend the simple concept of reimbursement. DEI likely killed those little girls.
Oh, my gosh. That's a horrifying story.
111 dead, 170 plus missing, and the much heralded Austin's first, black fire chief. And whether or not, I don't ascribe to know what it is, his motivation for not approving the swiftwater rescue teams to go to Caryville. I don't know if it's because he didn't understand the simple concept of reimbursement, or if there were other reasons, like he just has no common sense. And it's always easy to, look in the rearview mirror and say, well, you made the wrong decision there. I don't know why he didn't do it, but it certainly seems like he's an idiot. I mean, again, I don't know if it's because he didn't understand the concept of reimbursement. I will say that clearly their priorities are in the wrong place. If this, as some would say, a DEI hire, Austin Fire Chief Joel Baker, their first black fire chief, who has been working really hard to hire more black and LGBTQ firefighters. Perhaps he was too worried about that and not worried enough about getting the swiftwater rescue teams to the hill country. Maybe that's what the problem is. I don't know. But I have always said, do you know I've always said this, Joan? I mean, I can go back to my days in Colorado Springs and Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I said at the time it was called political correctness. Political correctness is going to kill people. It is literally going to kill people. And now here, and I don't want to go through the whole journey, and now here we are in 2025, and we do have DEI and woke, and yes, it is resulting in the deaths of Americans all across the country. It is incredibly sad, and I wonder if this guy will be fired, or if it would be racist to fire him for making a decision that led to the deaths.
How about
of
criminal
many people.
charges?
Or
I think criminal charges are actually what's called for here.
Criminal negligence, Joan.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's something that they should look at. But Joan, the wokesters out there, the Democrats, the left, would call that racist.
Yeah.
It's 8 o'clock on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.